Real quick, I want to do a fair use. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. I want to give all praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well, to the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom, to the Israelite foreigners, who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father, and have come back to the fold. Shalom to you sisters, you Akhwathiam, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. Right? This your brother Aram Yahweh up with the lesson. And I got this from the brother Hopeful Elect. I don't think he's GMS Hopeful Elect, but I know it says Hopeful Elect. And I believe he's a GMS member. But I followed him. And I seen the thing, so I'm just letting me back off of this, and hopefully this is edifying to the Lord's elect. Yeah, so this is Forbes, and Forbes is is a magazine for these Fortune 500 companies, like your Walmarts, your Targets, your different things, which basically they've already said that there are going to be empty shelves, right? But somehow they're not panicking for themselves. They're just saying, hey, you guys are going to feel the effects. So why? Because they're saying pressure from above, pressure from below compels companies and investors to tackle climate change. And saying that's just a insider's way of saying they're going to go with the program of the NWO, right? To deceive the people, right? To have you have a social credit score, a carbon footprint, and saying how much you can buy and what you could buy, right? Because they're not worried about themselves, and they know in that is going to leave you people rioting, fighting. See that picture right there? They know that's what it leads to, but they don't give a damn because you can't touch them, you can't do anything against them, right? They control the market, right? And really, it's just it's a thing where you're closed in on all sides, right? So these Fortune 500 companies, so on one hand they're cutting the jobs, right? So you can't make money to even buy food, but on the same exact time, there's no food on the shelves anyway, right? Come on, pressure from above, pressure from now. You're in a sort of a pickle. You're you're between a rock and a hard place. So something strange is going on with the climate, right? Yeah, the climate is really you Edomites, man, right? When you're shooting your direct energy weapons at Hawaii and California, and there's no way that much. You know how much? Know how much it rains in Hawaii? There's no way that much stuff burns without it being a direct energy weapon, right? There's no way, right? But it says not just in terms of the increased amount of extreme weather. See events such as heat waves, right, in the Arctic polar vortex over New York, and massive floods in the Midwest to trying to get that thing. Mozambique. Indeed, these are exactly the kinds of things that climate models predict would happen, right? So this is just BS, right? Because we know that they've been burning the factories, the food factories, right? Killing off resources, foods. All of a sudden, there's so-called diseases, and there's bird flu, and there's this, and now bird flu can interchange from a bird to a cow, and now they're trying to say, they're trying to make it where it can go from animals to people, which we know about the Ouchie Fauci situation, that they were creating it to do that. That's not nothing natural, right? Yeah, so that's basically pressure from above, pressure from beneath, and that's these Fortune 500 companies' way of saying they're going to use false flag events, right? Allegedly, right? To ensue that these crisis things exist, right?
Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something that affects all of us, our next trip to the grocery store. If you noticed recently that your grocery bills are creeping up, you're not imagining it, and unfortunately it is about to get worse. Behind the rising prices is a storm of economic shifts, trade policy changes, and supply chain issues. Let's unpack how tariffs, trade agreements, and immigration policies are already hitting the food industry, and what that means for your dinner table in the month ahead. So for the most of this year, Americans have watched as the Trump administration ramped up tariffs and at the same time hinted at even more tariffs to come. And while the stock market and official job numbers have stayed surprisingly steady, that might be about to change. A weak jobs report released on August the 1st was one of many red flags issued recently. Combine that with slowing GDP growth and a rising consumer price index, and we are starting to see released on August the 1st was one of many red flags issued recently. Combine that with slowing GDP growth and a rising consumer price index, and we are starting to see the early signs of a very rough road ahead, especially when it comes to food here in the United States. One number stands out the most. Food prices rose 0.3% in June and are up 3% year over year. That might not sound like much, but for families on a budget, on a fixed income, as an average American lives, it clearly adds up really, really fast. And most importantly, this might just be the beginning. According to Forbes, almost 90% of Americans are now worried about the cost of groceries. More than half of Americans, 53% to be exact, see grocery prices as a major source of stress. More people were concerned about grocery prices than any other financial concern brought up in the poll, but more than half of respondents also said that they were at least somewhat stressed about their salaries, the cost of housing, the amount of money they have saved, their credit card debt, of course, one of the big issues, and the cost of healthcare. From June 2024 to June 2025, groceries got more expensive in every category tracked by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Meats, poultry, fish, and eggs rose in price by 5.6%. Egg prices alone rose 27.3%. Can you imagine that? That's just in the span of 12 months. At 3%, the cost of food is rising faster than the overall inflation rate as measured by the Consumer Price Index at 2.7%. Thanks to trade deals like NAFTA and the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, most egg agricultural products from Mexico and Canada come into the United States tariff-free, duty-free in other words. In fact, Mexico and Canada now supply over $75 billion worth of food to the United States every single year. So anyone who supports waging an economic war on these two neighboring countries ought to think twice. In fact, the Trump administration should have thought twice before imposing tariffs on the countries that we so heavily depend on for our basic needs, the very basic needs, before even having the capacity to replace those imports with domestically produced items. One of the issues is that the United States doesn't have the capacity to replace those items at an equal or lesser cost. In other words, making a political statement was far more important to Trump than your survival, and it's as simple as that. But with the Trump administration calling the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement a, quote, transitional deal and pushing for renegotiation, that trade stability is now in question. If tariffs do expand further, American importers will be effectively responsible for paying new fees as the importer of record. According to USDA, in 2025, before tariffs even go into effect, this is before tariffs go into effect, mind you, prices for all food items are predicted to already increase by 2.9%, with a prediction interval of 2.2% to 3.7%. Food at home prices are predicted to increase 2.2%, with a prediction interval of 1.1 to 3.4%. And the next category, food away from home, is expected to increase 4%, with a prediction interval of 3.5% to 4.4%. It's not just about tariffs either. For example, a new 17% anti-dumping duty on Mexican tomatoes took effect in July. That's just one item, but it affects hundreds of businesses, thousands of jobs, and millions of grocery baskets here in the United States. Agriculture isn't like selling widgets. You can't ramp up production overnight. Growing produce takes years, not days, of planning, financial risk, and, wait for it, infrastructure, something that we, the United States, lack on a truly national scale. Right now, we are in summer. That means U.S. farms are producing more of what you see in stores. But when winter comes, we rely heavily on imports from Mexico and Canada to keep shelves stocked. It's quite likely that in just several months, American consumers will start to feel real pain. Fewer imports, higher costs, and more empty shelves. And all of that is courtesy of current trade policies. Some of American farmers have started to scale back their growing operations by farming only a portion of their available acreage. And that is something that is very, very important to understand, because as we reduce our imports, because duties are now higher, so of course importers are less incentivized to import more, demand remains the same, but our domestic producers are actually struggling because the U.S. economy is slowing. So domestic producers do this to conserve cash for the next couple of years. As anyone now understands, volatility and instability will only worsen. They're here to stay. Less farming means less food and, of course, higher prices. The uncertainty is just too high and the risk is too great. Without a predictable trade environment, even experienced American growers are pulling back. There is another piece to this puzzle which should not be ignored, and that is labor. Even before tariffs, U.S. agriculture was struggling with labor shortages. Right now, immigration crackdowns have made it worse. And yes, before you say anything, we do need to impose immigration laws. We do need to protect our borders, but we also need to be fully aware of how it's done, whether it is constitutional, and what the downstream impact is. Despite initial promises not to target farm workers, recent recent ICE actions have spooked immigrant communities. Whether you like it or not, without that workforce, even domestic farms are scaling back. That's just the truth, whether you like it or not. Fewer hands in the fields means smaller harvests, tighter supply, and yes, higher prices again. American workers are not rushing to replace those farming jobs, by the way. So that's another factor to understand. Have you noticed the
Right, 100%. Yeah, because where you blue-blooded Americans, that you love America, why ain't you rushing to the fields to take those places? You know, you want them out of here. Oh, yeah. Immigration, buddy. Immigration. Well, get out there. Don't you want to save America? Don't you love your country? Yeah, you don't love it like that, though. You don't. You just love to have the ability to have white privilege talk a bunch of shit, right? Yeah. So this is Proverbs chapter 6, verse 4. It says, "Give not sleep to thy eyes, nor slumber to thy eyelids," right? So you have to scopeo. You got to look, feast your eyes, look, pay attention, behold, right? Look at what these Edomites are doing, right? Because they'll tell you that there's no such thing as all white people are not bad. Well, look at the difference between the elites, which they're the ones who's making this man-made famine, and then you have the average everyday six-pack Joe Edomite, so-called self-professed white people, and somehow they have bigger fish to fry, but they have time. They find time to hate so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, man. Right? They find time to be racist, right? You know, it says, "Deliver thyself as a roe." A roe is what a deer. A deer is to be hunted, right? From the hand of the hunter, and saying that's Esau. Esau is a cunning hunter, right? Going back to Genesis, right? A man of the field and a cunning hunter, right? As a bird from the hand of the fowler, and a fowler is what a trap, what a hunter lays down, and see, and that's what they're laying down is this trap, as far as what this food crisis. It's a trap, pressure from above, pressure from beneath. Right. They're gonna say that it's the climate, it's weather, it's this, it's that. You know, these are reasons why the food is too expensive, right? And eventually you're gonna bring in the so-called wearable devices, what R.F. Kennedy or whatever his name is, who's supposed to be the minister of health or whatever he is over the United States now. He wants a wearable device, which is a foreshadowing of the micro C-hip that they want to put in you, right? And this will tell you where you're going, where you're doing, what you buy, where you're doing, how much you paid for, how much you bought, how much you're so-called wasting, right? And then eventually they're going to come in with the so-called, oh, well, we need you to have a certain amount of carbon footprint and a certain amount of stuff you could buy, because it's not enough to go around. So you can only have this much money. You can only have this much thing. You can only go this much far, right? You must live in a 15-minute city, right? So these are things to trap you in where all hell is about to break loose. And when all hell breaks loose, the race wars, the famine, the death, the pestilence, the things that's going to happen, it's going to entrap you, ensnare you, pressuring you, what she was talking about. Most people's gripe was about the cost of food, the cost of their credit cards, the cost of living, the cost of health. Those things are going to drive you to the people who's oppressing you, which are these elite, man, right? So they could put a micro C-hip in you, right? But it says, "Go to the ants," right? Saying that's the Lord saying, "Learn something, thou sluggard, consider her way and be wise," right? So what do ants do, right? We have to look and kind of study, see what ants do, which have no guides. And so basically, there's coming to a time where there's going to be race wars, and all hell is about to break loose, and there ain't going to be any government. No one's going to regard their kings nor their princes or overseers. This is 2nd Esdras, chapter 15, verse 16. For there shall be sedition amongst men, right? And that's the time that we're fastly approaching in, right? Where there's going to be race wars, famine, death, pestilence, right? And that's going to be what? Sedition, right? Everybody's going to rise up against the government, and then also ultimately against their own selves, right? And invading one another, see? Right? They shall not regard their kings nor princes. See, they're going to regard the government or the police, right? And the cause of their actions shall stand in their power, right? Which the elite is basically, Trump putting those tariffs is not an accident, right? Because the American dollar, even though it is weakening, it would be still several years before something actually really happened. So the elite, because Trump is just a puppet. They told him to raise up the tariffs to make a bigger leak, right? So say you had a boat and your boat had a small leak, you could probably still push the motor to full throttle and to make it to where you need to go because it's a small leak. But say you add tariffs to your leak, right? You know what I'm saying? Then you add the pressures of everyday costs that happens to people on a daily basis, the frustration that people are bound to get. Then you add social media, and they see these so-called brawls and fights, which so-called black people fought the white people. So white people are so-called getting upset, saying, "Oh, they're tired of this." Well, we went through 500 years of this, 400 plus years of that. But you can't handle it for 2 seconds. We'll show you that you're not the people of the Most High, right? You're not meek. You're not humble, right? You're not just taking it on the chin and turning the other cheek, right? So you're full of it. So at the end of the day, you were saying those things, and then you see what just recently, a bunch of little Edomite children was chasing another young so-called black guy, young black child, so-called black, right? Which is really an Israelite, right? Which are infuriating the so-called black people, which are Israelites. So you're seeing this racial tension coming before you all the time, a bigger leak, right? Now what's going to happen? You're going to have infighting. You got, that's not to mention, you got the Ukraine war that you're sending weapons to, that you don't even have weapons to defend yourself. You're sending weapons to Israel, which you need to be able to defend yourself. But now, because you're sending weapons to Ukraine and Israel, you're lacking in certain aspects for your own place. Another hole, right? It was just a small leak, right? So when you add in all these different things, the leak becomes bigger and bigger. And not to mention, they're still so-called beefing with China, which we believe, I believe that's just, that's their like own little inside thing. It's all pretend so they can have this trade war, because they're doing the same thing, because they're doing a de-dollarization for their dollar, China, to bring in the digital coin, the digital dollar, right? So, which all these elites are doing it. They're following behind the international bankers, the Gettys, the Oppenheimers, the DuPonts, right? Which ultimately goes back to the Rothschilds, right? Right. So these are the people, they're following the ways of the elite, right? They're all basically puppets, but the Lord is going to allow some real things to actually happen, because once bullets and guns are fighting and autonomous robots are let loose, it's autonomous. There's no way for you to reel that back. Ain't no way for you to control that anymore, right? So all hell is about to be out here, and no one's going to regard their kings nor princes, and the cause of the actions of their actions shall stand in their power, and a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, man. Martial law, man. But not even just martial law. Hey, when there's not enough food, I'm not going to invite more people. Oh yeah, by the way, we don't really have enough food, so I'm going to allow you to come over, so there's more mouths that need to be fed. No, you're going to have to stay away from us, right? We may have our own little community or something, and we get to eat off this, but not you, right? But then what it said, you're going to be invading one another. So I'm not going to come ask you. I'm coming to take it. So this is that time. It's going to be dangerous, right? And because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled and houses shall be destroyed. See, I'm coming to take it. And men shall be afraid, man. See, it's going to be a fearful time, man. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their house. See, I'm coming to take what you have then, right? With the sword and spoil their goods. Hey, man, that's what it is. Spoil their goods. Coming to take it. Because of the lack of bread and for great tribulations. Trouble, man. Yeah, so this is, 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 49. Same chapter, but I'm just skipping down because basically, just get into the point. It says, and I will send plagues upon thee, right? Which that's what's going to happen to America and all over the world, right? Because when you look up above this, it speaks about Asia and Babylon being America, and Asia being Moab and Ammon, right? Right, which most likely would include, the North Korea and the South Korea, right? And it says, and the world, just because the world's so interconnected with this beast system, especially the U.S. dollar being the world currency, the world reserve currency. Every place is so interconnected with this place. Once America falls, everybody's going to be affected. The world is going to be affected. So that's the Lord said, I will send plagues upon thee, thy widowhood, right? Because that's what America said. There would never be a widow, but that's exactly what it's going to be. You're going to be a widow. Poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, man. A lot of destruction, fighting, race wars, pestilence, wars, rumors of wars. And then things are going to heat up to where, hey, there ain't going to be no putting this thing off. To waste thy houses with destruction and death, man. See? And, all the places where Edomites are at, Europe, Australia, right? Canada, all these places that you Edomites are at. Hey, the Lord's going to bring those things down, right? Because we had strongholds back in the time, when you devils came out of the Caucasus Mountains and you conquered and you took down our strongholds. But that was through the Most High. Same thing is going to happen to you through the Most High. All your strongholds and your military bases and all ain't gonna matter a bit, right? And the glory of thy power, see, shall be dried up. See, your power is gonna mean nothing, right? Dried up as a flower. The heat shall arise and sin that I sin over thee, right? See, man, the Lord's he's gonna heat things up, man. Things are gonna spill out far beyond what you thought you would be able to control. Oh yeah, I got this. I can control this. You spent 200-300 years, maybe even more than that, planning all these things. But when you can't have a plan first and foremost for the Most High, because all this is the Most High's plan. The micro sea hip is really the Lord's micro sea hip. The intercontinental ballistic missiles are really the Most High's sword. Even the people, the animals, everything is the Most High's sword or weapon to be used at any given time, right? The Lord will use your wife. She'll be sleeping, laying next to you. The Lord have an angel whisper something in her ear, and she'll be in a narcoleptic sleep or whatever you want to call it, and basically, what do they call it? Sleepwalking, and stab you to death. Why? Because the Most High called it for it to be that way. So there ain't no escaping the Most High, But this is what these devils like to think they can do. So, but says thou shall be weakened, and as a poor woman with stripes. See, and that's what America's going to be, a very poor woman. That's why they're going to say, have you become weak as we? Is this the man that made kingdoms to shake? Yeah, because you're going to get beat down. Hey, tonight, hey, well, here, hey, as a poor woman with stripes, and as one chastened, right? Chastened, what? Punished. The Most High is coming to punish you, Edomites, right? Babylon the Great, with wounds, right? And then the Lord said that these things are going to leave you with wounds. Those that have taken thy bread have laid a wound under thee. But there is no understanding in him, right? He have laid a wound under you. You've given all that aid over to Ukraine and over to the Israelis. You're not gonna be able to put it off because you done gave all your things that would have helped you. It's gone. It's gonna be a wound, and on that wound it's gonna be a chastening, right? A punishment with wounds, so that the mighty and lovers shall not be able to receive thee. See? So, China being your lover, Russia or somebody being the mighty. No one's gonna receive you. No, everybody's gonna, or even what's the name? NATO. NATO's supposed to be part of you. They're gonna reject you. Even your mother should be sore ashamed of you, right? Yeah. So this is back here, Proverbs chapter 6, verse 6. So that's what, for you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians. It says, go to the ant, right? Thou slugger, consider her ways and be wise, right? Because when we're warning you about these death, the famine, the pestilence, you're supposed to be wise enough to see what's going on. See that video that we just seen? The Edomite woman saying how there's a crisis, a food crisis, and the tariffs are not going to help, right? Which I just seen a thing saying Trump just signed another 90-day extension, right? Yeah, so this is Reuters. It says Trump signed order extension, China tariffs, truce by 90 days. White House says, right? So he extended it for another 90 days. So that's another 3 months, right? Which is going to end up hitting you right about the winter time, which is basically what that lady was saying. This is August 11th, 2025, when this was literally an hour ago, right? So as you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians are getting these warnings, hey, you need to take heed and be wise as the ant, right? Which have no guide, right? Which that's what's about to ensue, man. It's about to be nobody regarding their kings nor princes, right? So we read that already, right? Or overseer, guide, overseer, or rulers, right? See, nobody's gonna regard the police, the mayor, the president, right? Nobody's gonna be regarding that because, hey, people are gonna be upset that the American dream has failed them, right? It says, provideth her meat in the summer, preserveth her meat in the summer, right? Storing it away. And gathereth her food in the harvest. See, when it's good, when it's a good time to actually, when you have some extra, you putting it away. You got extra money, little money, you put it away, right? Or invest in this case, because the dollar's always dwindling, so you got to buy either gold or silver or some type of precious mineral, or you need to be putting it in something that's going to grow. You got to play the stock market or something like that, but then that's not guaranteed. And ultimately, the thing that you need to put your investment in is the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, right? That's ultimately where moth and corruption cannot come, right? You want to put it in that spiritual treasure chest, right? And it says, gathereth her food in the harvest, right? How long wilt thus sleep, O slugger? When wilt thus awake out of thy sleep? Yeah, so this is Romans chapter 13, verse 11. And that knowing the time, right? See, And so now that we're showing you that they're talking about empty shelves, food crisis, tariffs, higher bills, higher rent, everything, right? you know, and obviously the judicial system, the judicial system doesn't like you. The police don't like you. The citizens here do not like you. So what is that telling you? You're at a disadvantage all the way around, right? So you're gonna need the Most High. You need supernatural intervention, right? You need the Most High to intervene in your life on every aspect, right? It's not that we don't need that now, because we're in the valley of the shadow of death, right? This is America, Babylon the Great, right? The valley of the dry bones. We're here. But we're here to what it says. One plants the seeds, the other water, but Yahweh give it the increase, right? Yahweh Bashem Yahushai give it the increase. You need to get the seed and the water to help you, to arise out of the madness. Knowing the time that now it is high time to wake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. It's nearer than when the time you were a kid and you were young and people were telling you about all these different things and this and that. You became a teenager and then another, a young adult, and now you're in your adulthood. Some people are actually, young. They're still young adults or whatever. They're coming into this thing, and regardless, it's still near, right? All the things that are foretold are actually happening right now. I mean, we're going to precept by precept. We're showed you the video. I'm linking to where the Lord says it's going to be famine. All right? It's going to be race wars. It's going to be people not caring about anything. It's going to be all out anarchy, right? Right? It says the night is far spent, man. So all the time of BS and party and BS, that thing is far spent. And there ain't no time for that no more. The day is at hand. See? Yeah. It's at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness. See? Cast off all your sins, all that BS that you were doing. And let us put on the armor of light, right? Put on Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, man. Because other than that, you're going to be in complete darkness and alone, right? With everything against you. You get the police. Oh, Trump just brought in the Marines. So you're going to have the police, the Marines, the judicial system, and the average everyday Edomite against you. And then you got these boneheaded Jakes that's going to be against you. So there ain't no winning in this place, man. You're in the valley of the shadow of death, right? Let us walk honestly, man. Pay it, man. If you're gonna be anything, be honest, and be honest to first and foremost to Yahweh and then to yourself. Be honest to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and to yourself. Be honest to the Father. Be honest to the Son, right? Which are two different entities, right? You have to go to get to the Father. You have to go through the Son, which is Yahushai. No, without question, you have to go through the Son. So let us walk honestly as in the day, right? When everything can be seen. You're not creeping around in the darkness and you think no one sees you, right? You're on your best behavior when it seems like everybody, this is how you got to behave on a daily basis. Like if someone's watching you, right? Which he is, the Most High, the angels are watching you. Where are you putting your trust at, right? Not in rioting, because that's what everybody's going to get ready to do, man. When the economy and everything collapse, people are going to be rioting. And drunkenness, right? Because they're going to be rioting because they're going to be upset because they were with drunkenness of the philosophies of America, Babylon the Great, and having this white picket fence, American dream thought and mentality that they thought they were going to achieve. But when the rug, what's it called? The proverbial rug is swept from underneath their feet and reality hits, not in chambering, right? Murmuring, complaining, talking BS, and wantonness, right? Pride, got arrogancy, because that's what these people, that's what the average everyday Edomite, your whole kingdom's falling apart, but you're mad at black people, so-called black people. You're mad at the Israelites. Your kingdom's falling apart. The elite is the one who's doing it. Your own constituents are the ones who's doing it. But in wantonness, your pride, you know what I'm saying? Right? Not in strife and envy. See, and with all that, it leaves you with pride, and all you want to do is strife, and you want to fight. And it's all because you're envious that you're not the children of Israel, right? You're not the elect. And even these other Jakes, 2/3, they're going to realize they're not the elect, right? They're going to have to get cut off on this side and have to come back later on with shame and contentment, man, right? It says, but put ye on the outer one, Yahushua Hamashiach, and make no provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. Yeah. So don't give it any opportunity that you will end up going off in this time where there's going to be the lack of everything. Right? You don't want to leave it to chance that you're going to end up trusting in something else and not the Lord in a time where there's nothing. Right? Though I there is, it is smart to, because I'm not saying trust into all these things as far as putting away food, but, at the same time, when you, hey, it says, Romans 15:4, such things, I'm going to read it in the NLT, Salakia. NLT first. Such things were written in the scriptures, see? Long ago to teach us, and the scriptures gave us hope and encouragement as we waited patiently for power, right? And that's what it's about. It's really ultimately waiting patiently for the power, for Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, promises to be fulfilled. And that's ultimately what it is about. It's not about trusting necessarily in being able to put away food, right? But these things aforetime were written for our learning, right? It says, for whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope. Because we're waiting on the Lord. What it said, waiting on the promises of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai to be fulfilled. See? But things aforetime were written for our learning. So these things written aforetime were written for our learning and waiting for the promises of Yahweh to be fulfilled, right? So it says, Genesis chapter 41, verse 25, Joseph, which is Yahweh Sap, said unto Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one, the power of the Most High Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, have shewed Pharaoh what he is about to do. And saying that's ultimately what this whole thing is. It's about what Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai is about to do. Right? So you don't really have any control over it. But the things aforetime are written for our learning. It says 7 good kine are 7 years. And the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. It says, and the 7 thine of ill-favored kind that came up after them are 7 years. So 7 ill, disease, pestilence, disasters, things about to come on earth, right? Which they were talking about. This was talking about doing a famine, right? A dearth, right? But that's what's about to happen here, a dearth. But all things gonna ensue of this dearth, of this famine, right? And this time, this famine is ultimately is man-made, right? Self-inflicted. But nevertheless, we're in spiritual Egypt. So this thing is all, Egypt was a foreshadowing of things to come. This is it all has to happen to fulfill the Most High's promises, right? I mean, you have to be in trouble, like the brothers were saying that, and that made so much sense. If salvation means to be saved from impending doom or trouble, he said you have to be in trouble to be saved. So as much as you're afraid of something happening, you have to be in trouble to be saved. You can't be like a Christian plantation Christianity and say that they're saved already. Well, that doesn't make sense. What are you saved from? Right? And this is the thing that you're going to have to be saved from. This has to happen in order for you to be saved. That came up after them are 7 years. And the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. And saying that's the time that we're about to come in, right? So let's skip down a little bit here. Yeah. It says Genesis 41:34, let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. So they're gonna take parts of the, basically a 5th of the harvest every year for 7 years and put it away, right? It says, and let them gather all the food of those good years that came and laid up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the city. So there was some food put up, there was food in the city, so people were still able to buy food and eat and do things, and probably not even really notice too much about, because they only took like a 5th of it. They only took, certain portion of the food, you know what I mean, and put it away. So they didn't really, they're not really, it wasn't really tripping. See, and this is not something that Trump is actually talking about. The brother said something about the head of Target and the head of Walmart said, yeah, there will be empty shelves. Well, where's the alarm or the alert of your officials saying, hey, well, let's put away certain amount of food for this time, and let's put away. They're not doing that. So you're gonna have to do that yourself. You're gonna have to be, instead of being a slugger, you're gonna have to look at what the ants are doing. You're gonna have to look at the things that aforetime where our ancestors trusted in the Most High, but not only did they trust in the Most High, they put into practice the things that were practical, right? And it made sense, It says, and that the food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. See? And now you ain't going to be any rulers. They're going to go against the kings, the princes, the rulers. They're going to go against, there ain't going to be any overseers or anything like it. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to have that. So you have to be your own so-called, not own overseer, but really your overseer is the Most High. But through the scriptures, you're allowing the Most High to oversee you, right? You're going to have to wake up out of sleep and know that you have to put on Yahweh Shai, man. You got to put on the whole armor of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, right? It can't be you just I don't know, the madness that you think that you're saved already, right? And you just trusting in Trump and what these people are doing, but you're not scopeoing the circumstances. Yeah. So this is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2. And I will set the Egyptian against the Egyptian. See, so you're going to have a civil war here. And you could see it. You could sense it in the air. Everybody said they could feel the eerie feeling in the air. Right? And they shall fight every one against his brother. Right? So there's going to be white people fighting against so-called white people. So-called black people fighting against black people. So-called Hispanic, Mexican, Native Americans fighting against Native Americans. You're going to have all sorts of things. But then you're going to have the people who still go, hey, well, wait a minute. We're so-called white. We got to stick together. You know, which you already have those so-called, a lot of those white militias that have that. But because so-called black people are starting to realize they have to start their own militias. They're supposed to be the bad people, right? But you have to witness to what's going on, and so you're gonna have to come up with your own militia. The black, Hispanic, and Native Indian are gonna have to stick together because you're gonna have a common enemy all the way around, right? And then of course the elect is gonna be, the so-called black, Hispanic, and Native Indian that's gonna be together, but we're totally separate from you 2/3, right? Lord willing, because a lot of you're gonna lose it. Like the apostle always said that it's a famous phrase. When there's nothing else to lose, people lose it. And a lot of you, that's what you're going to do. You're going to be in the rioting and drunkenness of this world, right? You're going to put forth your hand to do iniquity, and the Lord's going to allow the left-hand sword to put you to death, right? That's what a lot of you jakes are going to go through, right? And we know Esau has plenty judgment to get. So, hey, man. This is beautiful because judgment is ultimately finna open up. It says, brother. It says one against another, his brother, and every one against his neighbor, and which is a city against city, kingdom against kingdom, right? Nationality against nationality, people against people. So you are going to have the race wars. You're going to have people fighting against their own people. You have fighting against each other. You're going to have the World War III in commence, right? All these things are going to ensue all at the same time, pretty much. Coincide at the same time. World War III is going to be happening. People are going to be upset that a lot of their children got what do you call it? Got drafted to go to the war. People are going to be upset, man. It's going to be a lot of upset people. People are going to be fighting each other. It's going to be, the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst of, and that spiritual Egypt is America, Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon, right? Thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. See, and as you can see, Trump and any of his constituents don't have any counsel. They don't have no real counsel. Not to mention, he has a lot of yes men. So we know what happened to the guy in the Bible that had a bunch of yes men, and the Lord had the angel said that he would be a lying spirit unto his prophets, and his prophets were basically yes men, and they went with everything that this guy was saying, and ultimately it got him killed. It got everything. It got him destroyed, and that's what's happening right now with Trump. He have no counsel, right? The counsel. And I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to be to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards, right? And then go into their witchcraft. They're gonna get to praying to Satan and all sorts of things, trying to figure out a way that they can get a hold of this. But it's gonna be completely out of control. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord. And that's Donald J. Trump right now. It has to be that guy. He is definitely the cruel Lord over Egypt, spiritual Egypt right now, right? Which is Babylon, which is spiritually the daughter of Babylon, right? And that's this place right here. And he's definitely got to be the cruel Lord. And a fierce king shall rule over them, right? Going into these draconian laws, draconian measures. Saith Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai of hosts. See, right? So when all these things and people are going to get mad, they're going to be fighting all the race. It's going to be crazy, bro. People are going to be pissed off that the American dream didn't get a piece of that American apple pie. They didn't get a piece of that dream. It says, which is going to turn into their nightmare. And it says, and the waters shall fail. So ain't going to be no water. And of the seas and the rivers shall be waste and dried up. See, now there's going to be any way for you to even get food out of the water. So you might think, okay, they killed the stuff from the land. Okay, maybe we could just fish. We'll just get some fish and we can eat that way. And we'll be able to strain the water and boil some of the water so we can drink. But even the water is going to be dried up. Even things that, or if it ain't dried up, it's gonna be waste. It's gonna be like wormwood. It's gonna be poison. Right? It says, and they shall turn to the river far away, and the brooks of the fence shall be empty. Right? You have these so-called dams and these water dams and things that's supposed to have like a reserve water, but even the reserve water is going to be none. It's going to be empty and dried up, and the reeds and the flags shall wither. Right? It says the paper reeds by the brooks, by the mouth of the brooks, and everything sown, right, going into your crops. You're going to sow your crops by the brooks shall wither and dry up, be driven away, Salakia, and be no more. See, now that there are going to be any crops, there's going to be no way that you could fish, right? Oh, well, it goes into that right here. The fish also shall mourn, right? And all they that cast angle, right? You know, the fishing hook unto the brooks shall lament, right? You're going to be crying. Oh my God, I can't fish. I can't make any money. Oh my God, I can't pay my bills. Oh my God, the American dream is gone and we can't eat. You're starving. You're fighting. Hey man, it's all sorts of, all bad, bro. Just all bad for this place. But all good, but good though, right? For the elect's sake, Lord willing. And they that spread nets upon the waters shall lament. Shall languish. It's like, yeah, shall languish. Right? And yeah. So you're gonna, whether you got crops, whether you got fish, ain't no food. So what are they going to be doing? Right. So this is Revelation chapter 13, verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Right. And the beast is talking about the Roman Greco Empire. Right. Which this is the second leg of the Roman Greco Empire. Right. Or Rome 2.0, the one with the deadly wound that was healed. Right. That's we're living in that. NATO, EU, and America. Right? We're living in that beast system, whether you accept it or not. That the image of the beast should both speak. And see, now that's AI. So now you're going to cause that Roman Greco Empire, right? Which Daniel told you that in the end times knowledge shall increase. So in the time that knowledge is increasing, that Roman Greco Empire is going to cause both that Roman Greco Empire power to be performed. But now it's going to speak through AI and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, right? So brothers is not going to get the micro C-hipped, right? Brothers are not going to get micro C-hipped, right? Right? So a lot of brothers will be killed, right? It ain't going to be all of us, because the Lord says some of us shall not taste of death until the coming of the Son of Man. So even though you may be killing brothers Esau, a lot of the elect is still going to be here. Why? Because the Lord hasn't showed up yet. So, and he causeth all both small and great. See, and that's what Esau's ready prepared to do. Right? Rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, right? Which is karagma, karax, grapho, right? The mark is, the actual device, right? I guess the way to say it, it's device. The Karax is the delivery system of the device, and then Graphol is the information or the records that the device has upon it, right? And it says, yeah, in their right hand or in their forehead, right? So we have the so-called neural link, which people are getting micro C-hipped in the head. We already seen people buying and selling with the micro C-hip in their right hand and their left hand, in their hands. That's what the scripture says, in their hands, right? When you go into Revelations 14 and 9, it tells you in their hands or hand. So that could be right hand, left hand, hand, right? Which that's what people are getting. Most likely if you're in Europe or the other side of the world, it's the left hand. And normally in America, it'll be your right hand, but you know, right hand, left hand, whatever, right? But that is, you know, the things that we strive not to do. That's the fight, right? As far as the elect, for the elect's sake, that's the fight. It's not to receive it. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Yeah, so this is Micah chapter 2. And as you can see, the heading says, woe to oppressors, a judgment against wealthy oppressors, starting with Esau, Edom, right? And also you other heathen nations, Moab, Ammon, right? Elam, right? Because you're wealthy. Ishmael, right? Yeah, a lot of you are wealthy, you know, off the backs of the Israelites, right? You know, it says woe, which means judgment, obviously, as you can see, to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. And so in this, the world, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. So the self-proclaimed so-called white man is in rulership of the world. And the bed is representative of what? Rest. So he's in his heaven. He's at rest, you know, so to speak, right? When the morning is light, right? So he's the light bearer. He's the Illuminati. He's the one who has all the secrets, so to speak, right? The history, right? That's why he decided to tell his story, right? Not history, but his story, right? And because of history be told truth will be that you're Esau, and you're the evil twin brother of Jacob, who ought to be destroyed, right? And so that's the time we're coming into, the revealing of Esau, Edom, right? And his rulership, right? Showing that you are, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, right? This is your morning. This is your light, is light. They practice it because it is in the power of their hands. So they practice evil, wicked practices because, hey, they're in rulership. Now they're going to show you and push climate crisis, which so-called affects the grocery crisis, which affects the job crisis, which affects the immigrant crisis. So, right? So everything is going to correlate, because now they got to be able to identify who's who, what is what, and who's down with the program. Who's ready to have the name of the beast and the number of his name. Who's down with the program and who's not, right? Because many are going to be killed who's not with the program. You're going to die of starvation, right? You're going to die in the race wars, and then who's ever left, they're going to see who's willing to live or die. You're going to see so many great miseries, as the Lord say in the scriptures, so many great miseries. people are they're gonna be leaping over each other to get the mark of the right, of this system, of the Roman Greco system, the revived Roman Greco system, right? That digital Roman Greco system, right? It says what sorrows awaits, right? See, and that's what's coming on the elites, man. They're going to be the first fruits of slavery. They don't know what sorrow awaits them while they're doing all these atrocities and having no mercy upon anybody. But the scripture says, "He who has shown no mercy shall not be given any mercy." But they're not equating that to reality. So it's going to be sorrows awaits them, right? You who lie awake at night, thinking up evil plans, right? That's beautiful, because that actually goes with the Proverbs, right? Let's get that. This is Proverbs chapter 4, verse 16. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. And that's ultimately what it is. That's what they're doing. They're working their iniquity because it's in their power, right? They're in their rulership. They're ruling the world. They're the Illuminati, right? They're the shadow government. They're the ones who behind the scene who rule over all these presidents and prime ministers, and they're the puppet masters, right? But they can't sleep unless they cause some to fall, especially you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, and you Israelite foreigners who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father. They want you to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness, see? And that's how they get their money. Through human trafficking, through slavery, through drugs, and then through lies and schemes, right? By usury, right? Charging you all these insurmountable of numbers of interest, and tax you for everything. Everything is taxed. So that's why what makes you subject to payment. Everything is taxed. Tax here, tax there. They're already multi-trillion, but they want a piece of every single thing, and that's why they're going to come in with this so-called transparency. But we're doing it so no one can steal your identification and steal your money anymore. No one can make counterfeit money. And see, and that's good. I'm surprised they ain't mentioned that yet, and say that's what's affecting the economy. So we need to do things so we can have things back right. So we can have things, and ultimately everything will be better if we have this transparency, right? That's what they're gonna give you, a bunch of lies, and drink wine of violence, right? So they kill. They just go around the world spilling blood, right? The Lord said they have not hated blood. Since they have not hated blood, blood shall pursue them, right? Right, and that's part of their wine, their philosophy, their the democracy, right? They go around the world screaming they're going to help people. They're going to put democracy, and they're going to help them, and really they're there to steal their precious minerals, what's ever there for money, and then leave those people in poverty. But they do that because it's in the power of their hands, right? But the path of the just, right, which is the elect. The just is the elect of the so-called, what you call so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian, which are the Israelite, which is Yahshua Allah, right, which is the elect, which is the just, is as the shining, right? So you're not the Illuminati. The elect is the true Illuminati, right? Is as shining light, right? The true light that shineth more and more until the perfect day, right? The time of Yahushua coming back, right? Yeah. So from that, because that's basically what they work evil upon it, because it's in their power, man, right? At this point in time, and think up evil plans. You rise at dawn, early as you can, and hurry to carry them out. Right. Oh shit. Right. That is beautiful. And hurry to carry them out, simply because you have the power to do so. Yeah, exactly. Right? Because they can wage war against the Haitians because they can, because they're mad because they won a battle which anyone else would say that they were the heroes. You were in slavery, and you beat the French and you beat the Spanish. You beat, with all odds against you. You beat two major powers of that time for your freedom, and you're not the hero. You're the villain. Now you have to pay back France all this money that puts you into debt, that you're over there eating mud cookies now because this devil, because it's in the power of his hand to do that, man. Right? Yeah, so this is 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 6. For power, Yahweh, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, have shined in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of the power, Yahweh, in the face of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. See? Man, hey, we're going to have that light, man. Right? But we had this treasure in earthly vessels, see? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to be pulling from that spiritual treasure chest in that time. That the excellency of the power may be of the Most High, Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, and not of us, right? Yeah, right. So we're gathering, you may put a little food away and this and that, but ultimately it's about having faith in the Father through his Son, right? We are troubled on every side. See, and that's what they're going to do. Pressure from below, pressure from beneath means you're in trouble on every side. Yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, because that's what's coming, the time of persecution. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed. See, and that's what the Lord is about to do. He's about to make sure that we're not destroyed. Right? Yeah, so this is Micah chapter 2, verse 1. I'm in the blue letter. I'm going to go over here to right here. Transliterate, right? With devise, right?
Strong's H2803. Chashav.
Yes, so it's Hashav, right? And it says to think, plan, esteem, calculate, invent, right? So the micro C hip is an invention of what they have, and they planned on using it because it's within their power to do so, right? They're in their rulership, right? To think, to calculate, plan, to devise, mean, invent, right? Because basically that's the main thing. They're inventing it. That's what the micro C hip is, right? So devise. So it says devise, plan, or invent a complex procedure, system, or let's get this talking. Why didn't it? Let me go to the thing.
Mechanism.
A mechanism, right? It says, and that's what the micro C hip is. It's a mechanism, right? A system of parts working together, right? And that's their whole infrastructure, the whole thing with the AI, right? Because that's one part of the mechanism. The micro C hip is one part, right? The AI is another, right? And then they have their so-called killer robots to be the enforcers, right? So it's going to go in cohesive with the mechanism working together, right? A system of parts working together in a machine, right? And that's what this is. This is going to be man versus machine, or should we say gods, right? Because we're gods versus the machines. A piece of machinery, right? And that's ultimately what a micro C-hip is. It's a piece of machinery which they're going to put in you to make you cyborgs, right? So to speak, right? That's what they want to do to people, right?
Machine.
Right? They want to make you a part of this machine, this mechanism, right? And a lot of times you need to make a machine work, you need some type of data, right? Which that's what's going to have your records, everything about you in the micro C-hip, right? Right. So this is Acts chapter 17, verse 29. For as much then as we are the offspring of the power, the Most High, right? Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, we ought not to think that the Godhead, right, which will be Yahweh Shai, is like unto gold or silver or stone driven by the art and hands and man's devices, right? Which that's what a micro C-hip is, a device. It's a carved out device, the size of a grain of rice. It's got carved out between a bunch of other machines, right? Printed out, boom, 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 put out into to have your identification on it, like like any other thing, a product code, like a universal product code with all the information of, or where that product is and where it came from and who it is and where it, and that's what you plan. That's what they plan on doing, making you digital slaves. You won't be able to buy or sell if you have that mark, that device that's carved out from men, right? And we know that is basically an idol. That's basically saying that Esau is your God. And the times of this ignorant, the power of the Most High, Yahweh winked at it, right? Winked at the time where men was just saying that the micro C-hip is sin, and that it's all forms of how do they say, it's all forms of all sorts of things or whatever, right? The Lord winked at when you were able to say all those things, but crunch time is at hand, right? Right? It says, but now commandeth all men, right? And that's not talking about everyone in the world. It's talking about Israelite men, all Israelite everywhere. All men, which are Israelite men, everywhere to repent. It's all Israelite men everywhere to repent. You got to get out of that foolishness that it's whatever you put your hand to, and when you put your hand to that sin, everything you put your hand to grab a woman to commit adultery. You put your hand to it. Is that the MOTB, right? You go to the store and you go, especially in these days, people are going to go to a store and steal things because it's going to be unaffordable. They're going to just try to steal it, take it. Is that the MOTB? No, it's not the MOTB, right? So it doesn't make sense if you put your hand to it and that's the MOTB. Some people are gluttonous, right? They eat a lot, they do things that they're supposed to be doing, or they drink a lot, and you grab and you put forth your hand to drink alcohol and you drink too much. Or you go put your hand forth to the fork or the spoon and you eat a bunch of food and you're gluttonous. Is that the MOTB? Is that going to cause you not to be able to buy and sell? Or does it make more sense that it's a device or devises, plans that they have to put a device within your hand that's carved out, that it's a work of a man's hand. It's the work of man. It's the art of a man that's going to put forth this idol unto you, right? Inside you, right? Right? Yeah, so this is 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. Lest Satan, right, which is Esau, Edom, right? Satan means your adversary, should get an advantage over us, right? And that's why we're coming to tell you, warn you, right? And we took heed to the warning. We give the warning that we took heed. That makes sense to us. It definitely makes sense. More sense than you putting your hand to something and then now that's the mark of the. Now you can't buy and sell because you sinned, because you put forth your hand. It doesn't make sense because we've all sinned, right? It tells you in Isaiah 53, it says we all went astray. You know what I'm saying? Right? Man, that doesn't make sense. Right? Lest Satan shall get an advantage over us, advantage of us, like right? Which, for we are not ignorant of his devices, which means don't know. It ain't like we don't know what it is. We're not ignorant. We know this thing's been around technically since the 50s. They've been planning this since the 50s. If you did any extensive research on the micro C hip, which is the mark of the, is you would know that they've been working on it since the late 50s, all through the 60s, the 70s, even to this very day, to push this agenda upon you. But now it's time. The knowledge has increased. The infrastructure's there. The crisis is there. Right? You have a grocery crisis. Now it's time. And for you that's playing games, it's gonna be far. It said the night is far spent. It's gonna be too late for you to play. Hey, it's gonna be too late for you to turn back. That's why I told you about the foolish virgins. And it says no. You go to the sellers and buy. Go buy your own. And he said they went, and then when it came, it was gone. It's all far spent. It's too far gone to be playing so-called musical chairs. You know what I mean? He said, she said, playing what's it called? Elementary games, right? Right? This is far bigger than that. Right? So with all that, I want to give all praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well, to the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom. To the Israelite foreigners who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold. Hey, Shalom. To your sisters, your Akwathium, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence, and above all, Kwam Yasharallah.